Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about growth. And we're going to go through our usual 4 things of causal loop diagrams, behavior over time diagram, stock and flow diagram, and then model it in Excel and see what it looks like. And what I wanted to do though is start with the behavior over time diagram and just talk about what we usually think of as growth. So when we think of growth, growth in number of customers or revenue or products or bugs or those sorts of software bugs or those sorts of things, we usually just think of a line going up. Change the color. We usually think of a line just kind of going up. But what's important to know is what kind of drives that growth and what might be counteracting to slow the growth down. And the reality is most growth does not look like a straight line that just goes up. It actually looks like an S. That's why the title of this is S-shaped growth. And what I mean by that is it looks like this. It has a phase of exponential growth in the beginning. And the example we're going to use is word of mouth growth. So you have a new product. You get a bunch of customers using it, they like it, they tell other people about it. That increases the understanding and desire in the marketplace for your product. That eventually drives more people to buy. They like it too. They tell more people buy, and it's kind of this, reinforcing positive cycle of some new product that's on a roll. And we see this all the time in the business world. So it's kind of positive word of mouth driving this reinforcing growth. But the reality is you can't actually grow forever in real terms. So something is going to slow you down eventually. And so really the second half of the story is really some kind of slowdown in your growth, and it ends up looking like an S. And the slowdown we're going to talk about is market saturation. So people love your product, they tell others, but there's less and less people to tell it to because everybody's adopted your product or a product like it from competitors. So the market gets saturated. So even though it's a great product and high interest, it just has run out of room to grow. So that's essentially what most growth looks like. And you could look at growth of companies, growth, adoption of technology, growth of populations, growth of kind of empires, growth of emotion in a relationship. A lot of things go through this sort of early on exponential growth and then a slowing down and a leveling out. So let's talk about at least one example of that occurring as a causal loop. So we'll do number of customers. So these are customers that use your product. Okay? So let's draw it. So customers that use your product, I'll just say your customers. That drives, in our example, positive word of mouth. And so I'll just write W-O-M. That's kind of word of mouth out in the industry. That's going to drive, desire for your product, or demand, I should say. So demand for your product, and that's going to drive more people to buy your product. So this is a positive reinforcing loop, and it basically accounts for the beginning of this curve. Now, the downside of more people buying your product is there's less people that haven't bought your product. So that's the story of market saturation. And so the number of people that buy your product, the other loop really is that drives the number of available customers down. So that's basically a negative link. The more customers you have, the less customers are available for you to sell your product to. And the number of customers driving down, drive down the number of people that want your product because many people already have your product. So this ends up being a little balancing loop. So your success, and this happens in system dynamics all the time, is kind of sowing the seeds of failure, or at least of trouble down the road. So the more customers you get, the less you can sell it to. And so it's really these two loops. And these two loops are acting the whole way through from the beginning it's just one is stronger. In the beginning, the reinforcing loop is stronger. The market is way off from saturation. Your growth is mainly driven by word of mouth. But at the end, the other loop gets stronger, where it doesn't matter, how great your product is. You just can't overcome the fact that there's a fixed available market. And so the second loop gets stronger in the second half. So we'll take a look at this when we actually model it, how that works. So let's do the stock and flow diagram next. So the first thing is to choose your stock. So every loop is going to have at least one stock. And if this is something you can count on a particular day. So popular examples in business are number of customers, number of products, number of employees, revenue dollars in the bank or dollars in the bank, those number of defects, those sorts of things. So the thing you can count here would be number of customers. So that is your stock. It's also often the main thing you're graphing in these behavior over time diagrams. So your customers is our stock. Okay? Now let's talk about the flows in and out of that stock. So in our model here, no customers leave you. So there's no flow out of the stock, which isn't realistic, but we'll do it for our simplified model. And then the flow into the stock is basically what? It's people buying your product, becoming your customer. So we will call that buying, okay? So buying will drive this stock higher. So just taking this and turning it into here. So number of customers kind of is driving this word of mouth. Word of mouth is driving demand in the marketplace, and then demand is driving this buying. So that's the reinforcing loop, basically. And we'll figure out how to measure these things when we get to Excel. Okay, now let's talk about this other loop. Where are these customers coming from? So they're coming from another stock, which we'll call available market. It's basically the stock of your non-customers. So we'll call this available market. As more people buy, this is an outflow to this stock. There's less and less available market. So that's the way we're going to model this. And the buying is really impacted by the demand that's in the marketplace times the available market. So there might be high demand, but less and less customers available to you. So that's really the balancing loop here. So you got word of mouth driving it up. You got market saturation holding it back, and the two will interact with each other, as we'll see in the Excel model. So what I'm going to do now is I'll close this video. So we'll do it like the last one with a part A and a part B. So part A, we've got the behavior over time that we think is going to happen, the causal loop, the stock and flow diagram. What I'm going to do in part B is I'll model it in Excel, and then we'll come back to the board. And we'll talk about kind of what it means and what we can learn from it and how it would apply to you. Okay? Thanks.